The fourth impeachment trial in American history ended Saturday afternoon exactly as we knew it would. Although most of the Senate voted yes, the two-thirds majority needed for conviction was not reached and Donald Trump was acquitted. Acquitted despite the evidence presented by the prosecution, evidence which convinced 7 Republicans to join their colleagues, making it the most bipartisan vote for conviction in history. It was this evidence that saw Mitch McConnell place the responsibility for the Capitol insurrection squarely on the back of the former president, saying this:
"There's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. No question about it."
Well, McConnell said this immediately after voting to acquit. In the meantime, we are now faced with the aftermath of the events of the 6th and this verdict. Some goals of the trial were met. A measure of accountability was met, and following this, we now have a clear understanding of the two competing factions within our government: those dedicated to the ideals of democracy and the rule of law, and those dedicated to a craven pursuit of power. Fortunately, 80 million Americans picked the former and rejected the latter. Saturday's result will be viewed as a loss by some, but it shouldn't be. Justice was pursued, and now we know where everyone stands. Thanks for watching. We hope you'll join us tomorrow.